Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. It's Vikki from She SUPs, and today on the channel we are going to be talking about these fellas. This is a leash or a leg rope, and today we're going to be talking about 5 top tips when it comes to wearing leg ropes. Okay, tip number 1, stating the obvious, wear a freaking leash. Why? I get asked that all the time. There are some places that don't provide a leash when you hire a paddleboard. If that is the case, consider where you're paddling. Are you paddling in the area where that hire place can still see you while you're on your paddleboard? If that's the case, maybe that means that if you fall off, they'll come and rescue you. But if you paddle away from the hire place and the people who work in the hire place can't see you paddling anymore, you need to go back there and demand they provide you a leash. Leashes or leg ropes, it's the same thing, are really, really important, because if you were to fall off your SUP board, the likelihood is you will go that way and your SUP will go that way. And then if you add factors like wind and current and tides to this whole scenario, you could be ending up like all the way this way and your board all the way this way, and as you try and swim to go and get your board could just move further and further away, leaving you pretty screwed. So wearing a leg rope means that if you do fall off, which, you know, you never know when it's going to happen, happens to the best of us, you will remain attached to your board and you can swim back to it or pull it towards you and climb back on. And if you've lost your paddle, you can paddle to go and get it. If you need rescuing, you can wait on your board to be rescued. So tip number 1, be leash savvy. Tip number 2, wear the correct leash for your conditions. What I've got here, you can see it's called a coiled leash. The idea of a coiled leash is for flat water paddling. With a coiled leash, it basically means that this part is attached to my leg and this part is attached to my board. And as you can see, there's not much left of it. So there's not going to be any drag in the water, which could pick up bits of debris, or it could attach onto something and cause me some trouble. So a coiled leg rope is ideal for flat water paddling because you're not going to have anything dragging in the water. Opposite to a coiled leg rope is a long leash. So it's like this all the way down. So imagine there's no coil there. The idea behind a long leash is ideally for something like SUP surf or something like that. So with a long leash, you want your leash to be the length of your board so that if you were to fall off, you know, mid-surf, that board is going to stay nice and far away from you as the wave crashes over you, and it's not going to hit you back in the face. Whereas obviously one of these bad boys, it's going to spring nice and closely to you. So don't wear a coil when in the surf, wear a long leash, and wear a coil when you're flat water paddling. Don't wear a long leash then. Okay, tip number 3, wear your leash on your dominant leg. So your dominant leg, if you are a surfer or you are friends with surfers, that kind of thing, you might have heard about being regular or goofy. I'm goofy. So that just means which foot you step back on. If you imagine you were in like a surfer's stance, which foot is at the back? So if you don't know that, I suggest heading to your local SUP school and they will be able to show you a few tricks to work out which foot is which leg is your dominant leg. And then that is the leg to attach your leash to. Now, this doesn't really play much of a part when you're just starting out paddleboarding and you're just doing kind of basic flat water stuff, but it's going to help heaps when you come to doing things like pivot turns and that kind of thing, because you want your leash on your back leg so you don't trip up when you're in a pivot turn. Tip number 4. Tip number 4 is to have a 360-degree awareness at all times when paddleboarding and when wearing your leash. I see time and time again people leaving a beach and the leash is, you know, wrapped around their fins, or it's picked up something on the beach, or perhaps it's dragging behind them and it's going to trip someone else over. So just keep a general awareness, and before you exit or enter your waterway, check that your leash is nice and, you know, resting on your board. It's not tangled with anything, so you start off in a safe position. So have a 360-degree awareness at all times and just check in on that leash every now and again. Tip number 5. Tip number 5 is to know your leash. Every leash is different, and if you change leashes, you should really get to know your new leash. What I mean by that is, if you needed to take off your leash and detach yourself from your board really quickly in an emergency, could you do it with your eyes closed? A great idea for before you head out on the water to get to know your own leash is attach your leash to your leg and just close your eyes or avert your eyes and move your hand down your leg and try and find this loop here. This loop is going to be your kind of emergency release system. So find that loop, get a feel for it, position it on your leg somewhere that's easy to access, and give it a little tug so you can feel what kind of force is needed to open that leash in case of emergency. Similarly, is your leash an ankle leash or a knee leash? You can get two different types of leash. This one is a knee leash, so you can see it's nice and wide, so I can kind of put it all the way up just under my knee. But most of the time you'll probably get an ankle leash, which is a little bit narrower, so it's like smaller like this. So the difference between an ankle leash and a knee leash is typically if you're gonna spend a little bit of time on your knees, and if you want to go over boat wake or small waves on your knees when paddleboarding, you're not gonna be very comfortable if you have a knee based leash. So have an ankle leash. That's kind of like the standard one, will help you in any situation, great. If you advance in paddleboarding and you hardly ever sit down or you don't go on your knees very often, then you can get a knee-based leash. And that just means that the leash sits just below your knee. It's then super easy to access in case of emergency from a standing position. Tip number 5, know your leash. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found my leash tips super helpful, and I hope whoever submitted that question, that answered your question. If you have any more thoughts or any more ideas on tips around SUP leashes, please leave them below. If you liked this video, please subscribe to our channel, give it a big thumbs up, and hopefully I will see you again next Wednesday when we'll be revisiting another one of your questions and talking all things stand-up paddleboarding. Thanks guys, have a good week, bye!